Okay, white opened things up by making a missile attack over onto this space. There were two green pieces there, but green didn't defend themselves particularly, but they had this militia levy, which allowed them to spare one unit after the combat. And that means white can't just move in with their with a free action. So now white's got some serious problems. They don't have, unless they have a card, some way of dealing with green, of hurting them further. That's going to lay it on red and or blue. Now blue can't do a primary action. They had no money to cover themselves. So it leaves it on red to try to prevent green from winning, beyond the defend yourself against whatever territory green tries to take. That's going to make the game much, much more difficult. All right, well, I'll finish up white's turn. Red also went with the missile attack, being able to launch more units that way and get more dice for free. However, it meant they don't get their special ability, which relies on melee. They succeeded in moving in, and then on their fights with blue, well, they cleaned one area, but didn't get anywhere on this one, and that's pretty obvious. There's a lot of defensive rolls. You're unlikely to do much. Blue came back with an attack there. Red played their second charm. They had to spend a special event card to do that, and they also spent an event to increase their defense, so they weren't actually knocked out of there. So red's in kind of this nice position in terms of still here, but gained this. So if green is handled, red will still have kind of more power than maybe they otherwise would have. It looks likely they're going to lose this to blue. They probably played too much power to do that, when blue might have ended up as an anti-green faction. And thereby more allied with them than they are when they're tied against red here. But choices are choices. So now we're on green, and can they win the game? They're sitting on 4 areas, which means they have to take 2 to win it. Or their production, which in terms of essence is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right now. Now they happen to hold a card which allows them to get more, so I'm going to calculate and try to see if maybe I can gain enough mana to win the game off that. Well, there just wasn't going to be enough essence, but what I did have was something that allowed me to grab some extra coins, so I put more down, grew myself by 4 units, and actually shifted another unit in, so I think I only grew by 3. And then used my special ability, which is split attacks, to attack into here and here with missiles. Well, by splitting, I reduced my chances of winning either one significantly. I would have had to get very good rolls. And as it turned out, I actually didn't do any damage whatsoever, even though I had a high ability to spend essence points, the 5 points that I could spend, plus all the dice I had, so I could split that up. It still didn't do any damage, and that's really a shame as far as green's concerned, because, well, they were walking into this scenario thinking that they could win this one. And there we've gone all the way around, and white still has the advantage. We're going to pay out the coins, and as the war goes on, it becomes harder and harder, I think, for green to take to stab for the win the way they did. I think that's why they had to kind of take this shot at it at this point, because, well, red's become in control of more areas. Green's power base is weakening here as white and red are assaulting them. And I think they're going to be actually as likely to go as blue is here. In fact, blue may reestablish themselves just because nobody can concentrate on them. We'll see, though, because white is also a threat to the game. And, you know, in a sense, red's not that far behind either. We'll see how the coins come out. Alright, so the white player managed to grab this territory, which is fairly lightly defended, using a number of cards actually targeted against green. And I actually built a manse there so that he can produce more. This is far in the hinterlands. Put some more navies to play. Red finished blue out of the game. Now, white is clearly the danger. Red is also powerful. Green is kind of the weakest, but with a lot of essence, and everybody's worried about that. Now, whoever defeats them finally, though, gets that pile. So it's kind of like this. If green just starts piling that up and not expending it, and they probably can't win at this point anymore, that could be enough to push somebody else over fairly easily. Green right now is only going to produce 4, 5, 6 essence. They have another 11. They don't quite make it to the 50. And that's kind of problematic, but they may be able to make it before the game ends. And that's beginning to look like their most likely chance. So now it's kind of fallen into this strange three-way situation. Green has tons and tons of essence. By their calculation, they still can't win at the end of this upcoming turn. But they're getting very close. On the other hand, white is producing more. And especially with this Mance producing 8 essence there. That's huge. And they could actually keep building Mances in there up until they hit 4 of them. That could be a tremendous amount of points. White also has the potential of launching a naval attack against red. They only have to take 2 territories for that. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 land territories would win them the game. Likewise, of course, red only needs 2 more land territories. Green's in the weakest spot in everything except that huge essence pool. That essence pool, obviously, though, makes them a target. Let's say somebody could knock them out. So if red attacks green, they may be making it to the position where white could take green out. Likewise, if white attacks green, they might make it to the position where white could take green out. But if neither attacks green, they will eventually win on this unless one of the other powers can get the overall advantage. This is a really strange sort of stalemate where doing nothing isn't an option for anyone except green. And doing something probably can't be against the guy who's likely to win. Although one territory could be stripped from green safely because it's unlikely that you can take both. It's kind of iffy here because white has a better opportunity, I think, for winning by taking 2 naval areas from red. And red, well, it's hard to tell with red. But pissing green off doesn't seem like the answer. It just is putting people in this really interesting three-way situation where somebody's going to come out a winner. You can't. This game does not just drag on forever unless people don't try to win with the essence. If they ignore that, I guess it could actually end up in a stalemate, as many multiplayer games do. But the essence victory condition adds this interesting little twist to it all that says this game will end. And it does it very nicely, I think. Alright, well, we'll see. Okay, so far things have been going kind of interesting. White launched an attack against green here. All those risks with green. Feels like he could take 1 territory, and that one looked like it would strengthen him. But he didn't succeed. There were a number of cards, etc. played. He ended up launching a huge fleet with the intention next turn of beginning the naval conquests. Green says to himself, I can win if that happens. Red responds with this behemoth here, which meant first he launched an attack here, destroying all the troops. So these Mances, no longer one more was built, are going to produce anything for white until he gets a troop there to control it. And what's kind of cool about that is after it attacked there and destroyed the couple of defenses, then green got to move it. The next player in the order gets a chance to do it. And green, to an adjacent location, green attacked here. I don't think it did much. It may have killed a unit. After that, red launches a huge melee here. And white played a peasant uprising to reduce his ability to spend on units. And ended up defending himself with what little essence he has left. So red hasn't gained anything here, but white has really been curtailed in terms of ability. And I feel like the game is kind of being thrown in green's hands at this point. Green doesn't really have to do anything. In fact, if they have significant money, they may go for building a Mansa here. Of course, that makes that one heck of a target if they do that. Got to look at their things and try to figure out what they're going to do. But if they can do that, they might be able to produce more mana and maybe even enough to win the game at this point, because they get to go last in the turn, which is the huge advantage of having white going first. And indeed, green pulls off a victory. Those red locations that were opened up, well, one thing is, green could have split their attacks with missile attacks on them, but that required risk. What didn't is if you add this up, 4, 8, 10 points, puts me up to 47 essence, and then they have the main card, which gives them 5 extra. That puts them above 50. It's done without anybody noticing it, basically, because the points here, although they brought them close, didn't end the issue. Now, there was actually a card that could have allowed a swap of these two on someone against them, but without it being a guaranteed victory, it didn't happen. So that's the end of it right here. And you know what we kind of see is this same dynamic you see in a lot of multiplayer games, the like in a cosmic encounter type thing, where you're trying to build up the hand, the powers, the cards, whatever, that you can kind of slip into a victory instead of just bludgeoning your way forward into one. But sometimes you do have to bludgeon your way forward, and had green not been able to do that, then we would have seen white pressing forward maybe for the C victory. They would have had a shot at it. The problem here is, let's say they did an attack on this. Well, they still need to get this one. But there are cards. White had a card in their hand, I believe, that caused collateral damage. No, maybe I'm wrong. Some of the players have cards that cause collateral damage, so if you hit something once, you get to spark it elsewhere. You don't know what's going to come up in the event cards. White would get the next one, conceivably. This one wasn't going to do it, I don't think. But there's a lot of opportunity as you set yourself up where it's kind of a situation of you don't really know if you can win or not, but you're trying to optimize your situation there and trying to put yourself in the position where you have the shot to do so. You also kind of want to make yourself as unobvious as you can towards it. If you can just slip into a victory, and a lot of times in a real game that would happen. You know, these maybe aren't all counted up, and maybe they don't look like as big a pile as they should. That could be a way of slipping in. You know, maybe a navy. You know, and this looks very risky with those two navies there. One good bonus card could get rid of one of these, and then, or get rid of this one, and then this one's available to be attacked fairly easily. And free advances into both, bang, it's over. Taking the province is a harder job, no question, because people tend to defend them more strongly. But, you know, a lot of interest there for what I think is a fairly simple and easy playing game. The only thing that I see, and I'll get into this in the review when I hit that, the text on the cards is a pain in the butt, especially solo, reading all those cards, difficult. In a lot of cases, there's a little bit of that text is kind of, you know, flavor text, etc. There's no real distinguishment of what's flavor and what's not. You know, it's kind of like Talisman, where you're reading, this one doesn't look like it. You know, I mean, that's a lot of rules to read. If you have a handful of these, and as the game goes on, it ends up being quite a few. But other than that, I think it does a pretty good job. And I'll talk about it more in the review. All right, up we go.